If you're buying a home and the seller and you are represented by the same attorney, you don't have an attorney. You have a referee. And this happens more often than you think. In Connecticut, where attorneys are required to be part of the real estate transaction, some buyers and sellers try to save a few dollars and hire the same attorney. However, when something goes wrong, there's a title issue, there's a contract dispute, there's a last minute delay or demand from the other side, the attorney can't go to bat for you. Ethically and legally, they're stuck in the middle. And this consequence could cost you thousands of dollars, your closing date, and even your closing. I'm going to share two stories of clients with you that I did not represent at the time that they had these unique transactions, but I did represent them and learn their stories. So I'm going to share them with you. Our first client, Marcus. Marcus was buying his first home. He was looking for something perfect. Good starter home for him and his girlfriend to live in. Did a lot of searching, found this deal off market, which means it was not listed with a real estate agent, which also means he didn't have another advisor. So put together the deal. Him and the seller came to terms, agreed to a purchase price. The seller recommended to use his attorney because it would have been cheaper and it would have saved some money. But ultimately, the seller thought it would be smoother. Marcus, not knowing any better, just went along with it and said yes. He had no one to advise him. Went through the inspection. There were some issues. Went through the mortgage, got a mortgage approval, and then we came up to the appraisal. Upon the appraisal, we found out that there was an underground oil tank. Marcus goes to the seller, I want you to take care of it. Seller says no. Marcus calls his attorney and says, hey, can you help me resolve this because there's an underground oil tank. The mortgage company is not allowing me to get an approval without it. Well, that attorney says, I can't give you any advice of what to do because I also represent the seller and I can't go against either one of you. I'm not trying to be difficult. I just can't do anything to help either one of you. Well, Marcus took it upon himself, did some Googling, and this time Google paid off for Marcus. As you've seen in some of my other videos, Google doesn't always pay off. Nothing against Google. It's just you don't know the law and you're searching randomly on the internet. It's not always going to work out. But in Marcus's situation, it worked out for him. Marcus was able to find some information that he could cancel the contract because of this. So Marcus backed out. Now, prior to Marcus backing out, he did get an estimate as the cost of the underground oil tank to be removed. It was going to cost $14,000. Not joking. That's a lot of money. So Marcus, instead of costing himself $14,000 after we closed, was able to save himself money and walk away. Now, the only downside is Marcus had to start over looking for another house, which was more time and money, but he came to me on his purchase of his next house. And listen, it worked out perfectly for Marcus. Not only did he avoid the $14,000 bill, he got a better house. But Marcus said to me, the first thing we talked about is he didn't realize he needed his own attorney or he could even have his own attorney. That is dangerous. Luckily for Marcus, he was able to back out, save some money, get a better house, and it all worked out. Doesn't always work out that way. Let me tell you about Diane. Diane was selling her house. Again, no real estate agents involved, listed it on the Facebook or Google. I don't remember where she actually listed it, but listed the property, found a buyer, worked out the details. Everything was going smoothly. They negotiated a purchase price, set up the contract. The buyer recommended, why don't you use my attorney? We'll keep it simple and we'll save some money. Diane, again, not knowing any better, said, sure, why not? That sounds like a great idea. I could save some money. Well, didn't work out so well for Diane. When they went through the process and they did a title search to look at the property, there was an old lien from a dispute that Diane had with a contractor that had done some work on her house, and that the contractor had gone to court, got a judgment lien, and attached to the property. Now, Diane calls the attorney, goes, what can I do? The attorney goes, I can't give you any advice because it will cause a delay, and my client wants to close as quickly as possible. So Diane, again, was on her own, did some Googling, found out that old debts don't go away, which was not accurate because she didn't search in Connecticut. She was searching laws in another state, and the statute of limitation of the time that the claim can be valid for was longer. So Instead, Diane just paid the bill. It was a $10,000 bill that she had no idea she did not have to pay because under Connecticut law, it had been too old. Well, these are two situations where one worked out well for my client and one not so well. Diane ended up coming to us when she was going to buy her next house, and that's when she told me the story of her past experience. It's unfortunate that it happened. These are real situations, real dollars, real consequences that both clients felt. Now, here's what you need to take away from this. Connecticut is a state where you get the right to choose your own attorney. That's right, you get to choose your own attorney. You are not forced to use any attorney. It also means we're a state that requires an attorney to do a closing. And your attorney's job, if they represent you only, is to protect you, not the seller, not the realtor, not anybody else. It's to protect you as the homeowner or the potential homeowner. Dual representation. Point two, dual representation. Dual representation sounds efficient, right? But it's actually a conflict of interest. Because when something goes wrong, and unfortunately with real estate, something always goes wrong. The attorney can't fight for you. So the way we handle it in my office is there's two of us. So I have an associate that will work on files if we have a buyer and a seller, whether it's a family member or they just a landlord and a tenant, or somebody that just, happened to call my office to represent the buyer and somebody else happened to represent the seller. We will not do dual representation in the sense of I will not represent both a buyer and a seller because I know no matter what you do, something goes wrong in a real estate transaction. And the moment something goes wrong, if you're being represented by the same attorney, your attorney's frozen. They can't do anything because they can't do anything against their other client and they can't do anything against you. So what do? They stand in the middle like this and they can't do anything, right? So realize having an attorney is not an expensive cost. It's an expensive cost not having a good attorney or your own attorney. It's a small fee compared to what you're spending. So why not protect yourself? Look, Diane wasted $10,000 that she didn't need to. Marcus wasted some money, and we can't calculate how much Marcus lost because Marcus had to start over and there's no hard cost other than the time wasted and the money that he spent traveling around, which you're probably not tracking. So if you're buying a home or selling a home in Connecticut and you're not sure whether you want your own attorney or not, stop. You want your own attorney. Be sure to give me a call. We'll be happy to represent you. If you've got one of these cool transactions where it's a family member or a landlord tenant or something where you know the other side is being represented by my firm, that's not a problem. There's more than one attorney at my firm. We can still help represent you. So if you found this all interesting and you want to know what an attorney does and you don't want to be one of my stories that I share, be sure to follow and watch this video here where we talk about what the